We are entrusting the day and the endeavor to the Lord. Let's go. Welcome to my channel where I visit many good books, but live in the Bible. My name is Christine, and today I would like to talk about The Teacher of Nomad Land by Daniel Nayeri. I picked this up because there are just some authors that are automatic reads for me, like C.S. Lewis, Cormac McCarthy, Kazuo Ishiguro, Peter DeVries, and Daniel Nayeri, who, unlike all the others, I actually got to meet earlier this year when he had an event at Books of Wonder in New York City. Still can't quite believe that happened. I was like Luigi from Cars, freaking out, not because there was a real Ferrari, but because there was a real Daniel Nayeri.
A real Ferrari! Punch me, Guido. Punch me in the face.
Yeah, I made him sign so many books, like his amazing novel memoir, Everything Sad is Untrue, the true story of his family's flight from Iran after his mama converted to Christianity. And y'all, not only did Daniel sign my book, his mama signed it too. And if you've read this book, you know that that is a whole nother order of magnitude of awesome, because Seema is elite. Like, shortly after becoming a Christian, she was accosted by the Iranian secret police and told that if she did not take a little cross that she had in her car windshield down, they were gonna kill her. This is page 207 of Everything Sad is Untrue. One day after work, my mom went to her car and there was a note stuck to the windshield. It said, "Madam Doctor, if we see this cross again, we'll kill you." To my dad, this is the kind of story that proves his point, that Seema was picking a fight, that she could have lived quietly and saved everyone the heartaches that would come if she had kept her head down, if she had stopped telling people, if she pretended just a few holidays a year that nothing had changed. She could still have everything. Seema took the cross down that day. Then she got a cross so big it blocked half the windshield, and she put it up. Why should anybody live with their head down? Besides, the only way to stop believing something is to deny it yourself, to hide it, to act as if it hasn't changed your life. I actually asked Daniel's mama when I met her at Books of Wonder what was going through her mind when she did that. And she told me, well, I didn't want them to think I was fighting with them, so I took the cross down. But I didn't want them to think I was afraid of them, so I put the other cross up. I love it. I love her. I could go on forever. And I actually have a full review of Everything Sad is Untrue that I will link below, because I'm not talking about Everything Sad is Untrue today. I am talking about The Teacher of Nomad Land. And even though there is some overlap between these two stories, this is definitely a distinct reading experience. If you're not familiar with The Teacher of Nomad Land, this is a historic fiction novel set during World War II in Iran, where two orphan siblings, Babak and Sana, are trying to eke out subsistence in the midst of personal hardship, local conflict, Nazi espionage, and British occupation. Between them, all they've got to work with is their late father's blackboard, Babak's desire to teach whomever they encounter, and Sana's irrepressible verve. And can I just say, Babak and Sana's sibling dynamic was perf. Like, Babak is the older sibling, stressed and on edge, where Sana is like, but she's also adorably feral. Like, one of my favorite moments in this entire book was when Babak and Sana think that the Nazi who's been chasing them has caught up, and Babak tells Sana, run, just go and I'll be right behind you. But really, Babak is planning to impale himself on the Nazi's knife in order to buy Sana time, only to realize when he comes face to face with their stalker that Sana had been concocting a plan of her own. While Babak was preparing to take the Nazi's knife in his gut, Sana was preparing a rock to take out the Nazi with a headshot.
Oh, I'm hurt!
But Sana is not just a girl of action, she is also a girl of reflection. When Babak starts to stress about how they're going to prove their worth to the nomad caravan they hope to join, Sana asks on page 32, why can't we just do our best? Because, says Babak, hauling up his blackboard, only parents care if you did your best. Everyone else wants good work. Sana follows Babak across a field of tall grass. They walk in silence. The settlement is a collection of concrete and corrugated metal shacks, open tent structures, and flat stone houses, all built at different angles, sprinkled in a field with fenced-off pastures behind them filled with sheep and goats. As they approach the nearest buildings, Sana says, teachers care if you did your best. Babak smiles. He knows she's been thinking of a counterexample the whole time, as if every statement should be puzzled out and scrutinized for exact truthfulness. He says, okay, yes, parents and teachers. And horses, says Sana. They're very emotionally wise. Babak wonders what Baba would say and says it. If someone cared that you did your best, even if you failed the job, what would that mean? Sana, who only ever gets perfect grades in school, knows the answer immediately. It means they care more about you than about the result. And you think horses offer this kind of support even when they don't get their food? Sana considers it. Yes, they would nuzzle you, even if you didn't feed them, especially if you didn't. Fine. Parents, teachers, horses. Anyone else? Sisters. I can vouch that Sana is correct. I have personally experienced the unmerited support of parents, teachers, horses, and sisters. Unless you think that the portion I just read was a uniquely tender and humorous interaction, be assured it is rather emblematic of the broader narrative, because while The Teacher of Nomad Land is a historic fiction text, my suspicion in reading it was that Daniel Nayeri's primary interest was less about recording periods past and more about examining the formation and function of relationships. And to that end, I'd like to talk about 3 categories of persons that appear in this story and about how we relate to each. They are DBT. Devils, beggars, and teachers. And in The Teacher of Nomad Land, we are taught 1, what to do with devils, 2, what makes a beggar, and 3, what it takes to be a teacher. First up, what to do with devils. In any tale about World War II, it would be reasonable to assume that the Nazis would be the uncontested bad guys. But in A Teacher of Nomad Land, things are a little bit more complex. From the Iranian perspective, with their nation under occupation by Allied Soviet and British forces, there are more than a few harbingers of theft, death, and destruction. And as Babak and Sana observe the behavior of their fellow countrymen, they are struck by how the devilish drive to, as John 10:10 says, steal, kill, and destroy is overcoming them. This is page 5. Babak and Sana see Mr. Kashan break the lantern hanging over the flower box beside his door. He pulls out the jasmine plant and half the dirt with it. Why is he wrecking his house, says Sana. So they'll think it's abandoned, says Babak. I'm keeping mine, says Sana. That's fine, says Babak. If you were really abandoning your house, you'd just run away. But now it looks like he's hiding something, because it's the only broken flower box on the street. What if he gets everyone else to do it, asks Babak. Then the whole street would be ugly, says Sana, and you'd be no better off than before. Babak struggles to balance the stone in one arm so he can hold his sister's hand. You could destroy the whole city before soldiers arrived, says Sana, and all you've done is half their work for them. Baba used to love Sana's long walks of the imagination. He would ask open-ended questions and follow wherever her mind wandered. Babak tries it. He says, what would happen then? No, that's not the question, says Sana. Babak sighs. Why? Because by then, we already made the world ugly. The trick is to go back and never do the devil's work for him. Make them break your flower pots with their own hands. Never do the devil's work for him and make them break your flower pots with their own hands would both go so hard as temporary tattoos, like for the little kids. I think I may have to look into that. Suffice to say, Sana is iconic, and I 100% agree with her that the first thing to do with devils is don't work with them. Like Ephesians 5:11 says, have nothing, 0 things to do with the unfruitful works of darkness. Instead, expose them. Yeah, they gotta break our flower pots with their own hands. We do not want anything to do with the work of the devilish. We don't even want to be their friends. On page 18, Babak overhears a conversation between Mr. Turani, who he delivers packages for, and Mr. Turani's friend, Mr. Qasem. Mr. Turani reads every newspaper and magazine he can get his hands on and knows the rumors of such evil the world has never seen. He only ever whispers of the horrors of the Nazi war machine. I would rather be in the capture of the British than the friendship of the Nazis, says Mr. Turani. For the record, Mr. Turani is himself no angel, but I agree with him on this. I would rather have hits from a good nation or person than hugs from an evil one. For 2 reasons. The first being that intimacy with evil corrupts us. We are told in 1 Corinthians 15:33, do not be deceived, bad company corrupts good morals. And the second being that even so much as a pinky promise with devils will injure us. We are told in Proverbs 2:7 that the Lord stores up successes for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk with integrity. So if you walk with integrity, you will be safe. But if as you are walking, you start reaching out from behind God's shield into the devil's space, be that to give a pinky promise, a handshake, one of those three-legged race elbow hugs, or a full embrace, whatever you entwine in the devil's space, that's going to get blasted away. Boom! So yeah, don't work with devils and don't befriend them, which does beg the question, well, what do we do with them? And I point you to James 4:7, where we are told we resist them. On page 148, Babak, Sana, and Ben, a Jewish orphan who has linked up with them, come face to face with the Nazi, a man named Wolf, who has been hunting them. And they not only resist him, Babak cliffs him. Again, page 148. Ben throws the coin in the air a little too high. Wolf cranes to watch it. He lets go of Sana and reaches for it. Babak runs to get him away from her. He's looking up, and Babak runs into him. Babak punches both fists into Wolf's chest and pushes him with all his strength. Wolf makes a sound like oof and goes back over nothing, over the precipice. Wolf shares the fate of many a Disney villain in experiencing spontaneous flight, but unlike Gaston, Clayton, Maleficent, etc., this man does not die. His arm does get crunched though, which is quite biblical because we are told in Romans 16:20, the God of peace will soon crunch Satan underneath your feet or at the bottom of a ravine. And y'all, I love that verse so much. I painted these jeans. Can you see? Can you see? Crush the devil's head. So to recap, what did the teacher of Nomad Land teach me about what to do with devils? 1, don't work with them. 2, don't befriend them. And 3, do resist and cliff them. Alrighty, on to the second thing the teacher of Nomad Land taught me, which was what makes a beggar. After their dad's death, Babak and Sana are essentially on their own, and eventually they resolve to go and see if the nomads their Baba used to teach would allow them to join their caravan.
Can I stay with you, please?
Babak is especially self-conscious about his empty hands. He's got his Baba's blackboard as well as a desire to teach, but he knows that he's a poor replacement for his dad. In Babak's own words, he feels like a purposeless ghost haunting the lives of others. Sana, on the other hand, is like, look, I found the caravan, a pumpkin. We're golden. Alas, their reception by the nomads isn't the warmest, but things do start looking up for them when the leader of the caravan's brother-in-law, a man known only as the Traveler, advocates for Babak and Sana to stay. He even encourages Babak not to think so meanly of himself, telling him that the exchange of the caravan's protection for Babak's instruction isn't as lopsided as Babak thinks. This is page 50. Oh, says Babak. He feels in him a weight of shame falling from his heart and realizes he had made a beggar of himself. The pumpkin rinds are beginning to wrinkle and char. Inside, the spiced butter bubbles in an aromatic stew. Babak says, thank you. Don't thank me. Thank God, all-knowing, all-wise, who gives and gives and gives besides. Babak laughs at Traveler's sing-song poem. And even then, says Traveler, did you calculate the worth of our company? Who's more entertaining? Sana can sing, offers Babak. She wins, says Traveler. See, Babak, you should always consider the value of your company. Are you better company, for instance, than Mr. Hussein? That's the leader of the caravan. He smiles. The question obviously needs no answer. Traveler nods at the quieting camp and says, now go see if you can make the children listen a while before we lose the light. Sadly, lessons don't go as well as Babak or Mr. Hussein were expecting, and the next morning, Babak overhears Mr. Hussein and the Traveler talking. This is page 60. If the teaching isn't worth the time, and it distracts the children from their chores, here in the worst year, with a bad harvest, an invasion, wartime, checkpoints everywhere treating the nomads like refugees or worse, soldiers treating the nomads like spies, sneaking around the mountains they have traveled for generations, now to have 2 strange children without papers, with open mouths, without any usefulness, well, Mr. Hussein has to draw the line somewhere. Overhearing them, Babak thinks to himself, It is only love that lets us forgive the inconvenience of other people. Love is definitely wanting on Mr. Hussein's end, and therefore Babak and Sana are forced to leave the caravan, and not too long after, they find themselves with truly empty hands. Sana, indomitable and unperturbed, is in no way averse to being what her empty hands make her, which is a beggar. This is page 98. Babak asks, "Wait, where are you going?" "To beg," says Sana cheerfully, as if she doesn't understand the humiliation. "We're beggars now." "We're not beggars," says Babak. "We don't even have water," says Sana. "Mr. Cabbage," that's a British soldier they met, "might help us. We could trade." "We don't have anything. That's what begging is. We need something and have nothing to offer. We can't communicate enough to tell him about Wolf. I think he liked us, though." Suddenly, even though it seems like the most sensible action, Babak is hesitant to walk back to the soldiers' outpost. If Wolf hadn't taken so much, they wouldn't be in this situation. He thinks, as the older brother, maybe he should have done something to protect them, but he doesn't know what. He prays in his head to God. He wishes they weren't beggars. He realizes that to God, we are all beggars, praying for blessings we could never repay or gain in trade. We beg and we hope for mercy. That line got me because it is so true that before God, we are all beggars, all so empty-handed, except for what he has given. It's like the Apostle Paul says in Romans 11:35 through 36, "Who has given a gift to God that he might be repaid? For from him and through him and to him are all things. To him, to God be the glory forever and ever. Amen." And actually, as I thought about Babak and Sana's empty hands, despite the fact that they are in the desert, I was reminded of the Christina Rossetti poem turned hymn in the Bleak Midwinter, which concludes, "What can I give him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet, what can I give him? Give my heart." It is a tender truth that the only thing we empty-handed beggars have to give is the only thing that God is interested in. We are told in Psalm 51:16 through 17, God does not delight in sacrifice, or we would give it. He does not delight in burnt offering. The sacrifice pleasing to God is a broken spirit. He will not despise a broken and contrite heart. So yes, the teacher of Nomad Land taught me that beggars are made by empty hands, but the Bible taught me that believers are made by giving our broken hearts to him. Alrighty, the last thing the teacher of Nomad Land taught me is what it takes to be a teacher. When Babak is first getting up the nerve to approach the nomads with his offer of teaching their kids, Sana gives him a little pep talk. This is page 43. "I've never taught before," says Babak. "It's so easy. You just talk," says Sana. Have I already said I love her? Because I do. Sana, like Daniel's mama Sima, is an icon, and she is not totally off. To be a teacher, talking is definitely involved. It's just that there are some additional parameters. It's not just talk. In Ecclesiastes 12:10, we are told that a teacher is one who seeks out delightful sayings and shares words of truth accurately. And in order to do both of those things, seek out delightful sayings and share words of truth accurately, you need, in my opinion, two things: a discerning mind and a caring heart. And in Babak, both of those things play a part. Page 136. Babak gets the sense that a core part of teaching is the art of making things the right size, specific. That is the teacher's job, to make the world understandable in parts. No one learns a language all at once. You start with the letters. And even before the letters, you start with the lines that make them. The Latin origin of the word accurate is to be done with care. And we see that Babak is full of care. He is not just blasting out information willy-nilly. As a teacher, he strives to be specific, to discern what is pertinent for and perspicuous to his students. In essence, as a teacher, Babak truth shares with care, which, biblically speaking, is a 10 out of 10 pedagogical approach, because we are told in Ephesians 4:15 we are to speak the truth in love, bearing in mind that, as 1 Timothy 1:5 tells us, the goal of our instruction is a love that comes from a pure heart, good conscience, and sincere faith. At the end of the day, a good teacher isn't only interested in addressing ignorance. They're also interested in addressing wickedness. After all, as seen in Madeleine L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time, where the villain of the story is literally a giant brain, big brains can be big bad, and a good teacher is not going to overlook that. Which is why Babak, who is a great teacher, has evil very much in his line of sight. This is page 150. Demons are unwelcome guests that we will never be rid of until the day of our Lord, thinks Babak. Teaching is like sitting with a young person and encouraging them to only listen to the good angels in their mind and not the evil ones. But you can't force them. Yeah, this is the teacher, not the dictator of Nomad Land. That would be an entirely different story. Probably not kid-friendly, I suspect. The point being, much as we, or I will speak for myself, I would like to give the obstinate, ignorant, wicked a smack. The role of a teacher, as Babak points out on the very last page of this, is to give, period, not to whack. And we can see the truth of that in the good teacher, Jesus Christ, who we are told in Romans 10:21 daily stretches out his hand to a devious and defiant people, and who himself told his followers in Luke 6:35, do what is good, love your enemies, give, expecting nothing in return, for then your reward will be great in heaven, and you will be called children of the Most High, for he is gracious to the ungrateful and the evil. That is good news, delightful news, one might even say, that God incarnate came to offer us the ungrateful, evil, devious, and defiant. Truly amazing grace. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this was edifying, encouraging, and entertaining, and I hope you will continue to join me as I visit many good books, but live in the Bible. Ha! Did I get it?